I'm here and listening, but I'm not quite ready to
Okay.
participate here. Actually putting down some pea pads for sweet pea, so
Oh, good.
it's an essential thing to get done in the morning.
Absolutely. Well, there's Andrew.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. What does that mean?
Oh, I said hello.
Oh, I thought you said uh-oh. I was just saying, uh-oh, we got a problem already? How are you this morning?
Good. Good. Tired, but good.
Little. How's young Rowan doing?
He is good. Yeah, he's got he picked up a lot of language like overnight, you know.
Really?
Yeah. So
Fun.
no, I was giving him dinner last night and I like accidentally ate off his plate and he goes, "Oh, that's mine."
Whoops.
Yeah.
Not supposed to do that, Dad.
No, apparently not.
Morning, Susan.
Good morning, David. I was thinking it was lucky you don't have 15 people in your class.
Very, actually, for this. I've never had that happen before.
Yeah.
But first time for everything with Microsoft.
Yeah.
But it just suddenly resolved itself. So
Good. Good.
yes, good. Yeah, because clearly, if it doesn't, there are a lot of issues. But Rosemary's more or less here. She's just getting herself together.
I see.
Yes, I'm listening and I see you. Good morning, Susan. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Rosemary.
I'll be there in a moment.
Okay. Tell you what, while you're doing that, I'll do the Ting Shaw and so anyone arrive with a question today?
How do you get your energy to move anywhere from beyond the crown of the head past the neck?
Well, that's interesting. Not
I had
right.
an old neck injury from a car accident in 1985, and my neck seems to say, "Nah, we're not doing that."
Well, interestingly enough, the neck comes up in our class today, not in the very first thing, but we'll look at the neck in a moment because it is really important. So maybe there is some help here.
I would hope.
And I'm finding that my legs get really, really tired. I haven't been able to sort of relax into that yet. And maybe I'm slightly off position or I don't know.
So you mean when you're standing?
Yeah.
Well, of course, part of it is that some of us in this class are not spring chickens.
Yes, I was just going to say that because I'm old.
Well, no, I refuse to accept that. As someone said the other day, I think it was a mistake on my birth certificate. But, my suggestion about that is that when you arrive at a point where it's too much, then sit down for a bit, take a break, and then return to standing when you feel recovered. And it will grow. I mean, it's like anything else. Even at our age, we can extend our periods of practice by practicing, but not doing too much. Because if we do too much, we enter the possibility of injury. We certainly begin to strain the body, and that doesn't help us grow. So when you need to sit down, take a break, and then go on.
Okay.
Anything for you, Andrew?
Just I kind of know around not forcing a point that you've discovered, right? And just holding your awareness on it instead of trying to, like fix it, right?
Yeah, right.
But any sort of I'm finding it difficult to find the line between holding an awareness and trying to do something. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna like fix this problem by not doing anything, but not recognizing it, right?
It doesn't help either.
Constantly towing the line between the two. But I noticed that when I do that, I tend to tense up.
Yep.
And so I don't know what I'm looking for here, but if you've got anything around not doing that.
Well, the words that came to me as you were talking were allow and intent.
Okay.
So clearly there is a significant difference between intending to do something and making something happen. And that is really something that we have to begin to try to develop, is to have the intent to allow it to happen, but not force it to happen. So
Right.
it is finding that line, because we're so used to fixing whatever is wrong.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not our approach here. And it's really counterintuitive at first. But you discover that, it's like lengthening, which we've talked about. I'm not sure how much I've talked about it with Susan and Rosemary, but you can try to stretch your arm and it doesn't go very far. It'll stretch out a little bit. But if you can relax everything and just release it and allow it to have the intention to lengthen out, to let go, all of a sudden you've got anywhere from inch to 2 inches more than you did before in terms of how far your arm can go. That didn't come from fixing it. That happened by releasing it, by relaxing and allowing it to happen. Because it's there. It's not that it can't do it. It can. We just get in the way.
Right.
So in a way, even with energetic things, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And
I guess just.
Well, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Well, I just was going to say it's something, again, it's a matter of practice of saying, okay, I can't fix this, but I can let it happen. I can allow it to happen. And giving yourself the permission for that to happen, so that you don't block it by, I'm trying to make this work and it's not working.
Yeah. Right. And then I always like enter a loop of like, well, I'm trying to not do anything so that, and like, that's how I'm trying.
Right. Yeah. So you have to let go of try.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you need to think in terms of allowing, not trying.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective shift.
Yeah,
that I'll have to try to play with.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, particularly for you. I mean, what you do is fix things in your work.
Right. I was gonna say, like, that's my job. It's broken, fix it.
So I understand, that there is a separation there that is a little difficult at first.
Yeah.
But you'll get there. Or you can get there.
Yeah. I guess I should stop trying to get there and just get there.
Right.
Allow myself to be there.
And that's an interesting point, because you're getting in your own way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, it's a counterintuitive thing for us in our Western mind.
Right.
So, well, let's go on. I'm going to introduce a little practice here this morning that we're going to do. I'm going to have you do. So now that you're beginning to get the sense of your spine going through your legs, the next thing is that when you do the beginning of cloud hands, is not to let this go. All of a sudden you have one leg and then you go to the next and there is no continuity. You break the connection. So don't do that. Don't break that established connection. So if you will stand, and I'll talk you through what I'd like you to focus on as we do this.
Nope. Can't get my legs.
Still adjusting here, just a minute. Well, you can't see my legs, so that's not good, right?
Well, it's okay for the moment.
No, we still can't see my legs.
It's okay. Okay. So start with your feet parallel, about shoulders width apart, underneath your shoulders nests. Just let your mind slow down. Be aware of your breath, slowing and breathing down to your dantian. And let your mind sink down through your body. And just be aware of every part of your body as you follow that breath down through your head and neck, down through the shoulders and arms, front, back, and sides of the chest and the abdomen. Down through the hips and thighs, through the knees, calves, ankles, and feet. Just stand and breathe for a moment. And now step out with your right leg to the width that you are doing cloud hands in. And again, without rotation, just beginning to shift your weight from one side to the other. And make sure that you're doing it so you are continuously sinking from your spine down to your legs as best as you can. Keep the hips parallel to the earth. Move from your dantian. And as you get as far as you can go to one side, push that leg and go the other way. And try and maintain this sense of your head, your perineum, and your feet linked together. Let yourself shift as close to 100% on each foot as you're comfortable doing. It doesn't have to be all the way yet, but working towards 100%. Feel your energy dropping down your spine. If you have any twitches or weird sensations, that simply is an indication where your chi is blocked. And do your best when you're in the middle to feel the crown of your head right over your perineum. And as you're moving from side to side, try to have the feeling that your leg is moving your entire torso and your head. You'd be surprised how many people don't have their head energetically attached to their body. And that's a literal statement as opposed to a metaphor. Be very aware of breathing into your belly as you go from side to side. Breathing smoothly, moving smoothly. If you feel strain as you're pushing yourself to one side or the other, you may need to narrow your feet a little bit, or just be aware of that. Your stance will be able to get wider as you continue to practice. Remember that Qigong is the art of moving qi in the body. It's not an art of physical movement, although it has a lot of pretty sophisticated physical movement in it. Breathe from your belly. The point is integration, not movement per se. So come to a stop and relax. You can sit down for a moment. So did you feel any problems in doing that? What did you feel doing that?
I felt my energy flow.
Good.
Right through the neck, like just that allow intent thing just went right through. It's like, what's the problem? No problem here. Just go.
Good for you.
It surprised me.
It will do that.
I haven't been able to do that in weeks.
Susan?
I find it, well, I need to keep my eyes closed so that I can think, contain it all in my body.
Mm-hmm. Good. That's fine.
Let's see. I'm thinking about moving, when I push off with one leg, of moving the energy up and around and down into the other leg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Good.
But my legs get shaky after a while.
Well, then it was a good time to sit down and rest.
Yes.
Andrew?
The comment about the point isn't the movement was interesting. You said that and I was like, that's the only thing I'm thinking about right now. Yeah, so that's a good reminder.
Well, yes, and we have to start from the movement. So it takes a while. We've got quite a few stages to go through yet. But it takes a while to let go of the focus on the movement and be able to focus on the other aspects. So,
Yeah.
but it's important to keep that thought in the back of your mind.
Right. I did find that I do go up in the middle, like a real little bit. And if I really focus on not doing that, all of a sudden everything is like, oh, yeah, no, now I'm moving. Now I'm flowing. It really makes a huge difference.
That's important. That's good. Let's see. So let me talk again here for a minute. So good Qigong masters can sit still and they can move everything inside of their body, any place in their body. But that's because their mind has entered their body. If you can get your attention to be fully on your fingers, you can move pretty much anything inside your body because your consciousness can penetrate your physical body. And in truth, the consciousness of your physical body and the consciousness of the rest of you is really not totally different. However, most people focus on some things, but not on others. So Qigong is primarily about the physical side of you. And that's essentially your flesh and the energy that makes your body move and your acupuncture channels work. And the energy that makes your internal organs work, that produces what are called the animal emotions. But when you start going past that, the higher emotions, where thought comes from, the whole psychic field, karma and essence, the actual term in Chinese is not Qigong, it's Shengong. Shen means spirit. You do need to be thoroughly comfortable with Qigong before you begin Shengong. Just remember that with the foundation of the body, it's very, very easy not to have the metronome of knowing whether or not when you're dealing, with your mind and your thoughts and your emotions and the psychic realm. You're doing something for real, or you're having one big hallucination. So before we start sinking qi in the body, we need to look at another alignment, and that is your head. So from the perspective of Qigong and Chinese medicine, your head is an internal organ, and it's very directly tied to your kidneys. The biggest thing with your head is that if the energy that's inside your brain that has, the qi is a, I'm going to start that again. The biggest thing with your head is if the energy that's inside your brain, the qi, as opposed to all the neurological stuff, is going to integrate with the body, it has to have a way that the head and the neck connect into the torso and into the feet. This is not just a question of an alignment. The method is what I started talking about earlier, connecting the crown of your head to the perineum. But it's more than that. It's about how your head and your neck, so that the two things occur. The first one is you don't compress the vertebra of your neck. If you have a trunk line with signals and you cut the noise at the beginning, the only thing you get down line is distortion in the rest of the body. But more than that, your head has weight. And most people don't realize that even the way they move the head actually directly is directly linked to pressures inside the internal organs. And especially as people age, if they don't at least have a good baseline about the way in which their heads move, you can start pushing your internal organs in directions that are not going to do you any favors. So what we want to look at is the position of the head. Now, the base of the skull, right at the very base of the skull, is the place where your spine comes out of your brain. And this is the biggest problem in neck alignment, neck adjustment, excuse me. That place has to be open so that the signals coming from your brain through your body are not impeded or stuck or jammed or short-circuited or snap, crackle, and pop and causing interference. Because when that happens, it does stuff inside your body that's really not very good for it. So the trick here is that you just need to release the head upwards, creating a little space. And this space is only about the thickness of 2 or 3 sheets of paper. So you create a little bit of space and actually open it up. Cut it down a couple of sheets of paper, and you cut the signal right at the primary source. So what will allow this to happen? If your head is straight, you're probably all right. If it bends to either side at all, it blocks the signal. If it goes to the side enough, as you're getting older, you will begin to develop spine problems. But even more important, what it does to your internal organs. Now, when we talk about the difference between, say, a 90-year-old man who appears to be a 50 or 60-year-old or a 90-year-old who is like 160, it's a big difference. These things matter. They really matter because they happen over decades. They don't happen quickly. The next thing is that the worst thing you can do is to bend the head back. That really jams the whole system, because when the head goes back, it not only jams the signals coming from the brain, but it does a real job on your thyroid to boot. And under-functioning thyroids are quite common. The last one is about bending the head forward, and that's a matter of degree. If you bend the head a little bit forward, it's not a problem, because what that actually does is it opens up that space at the base of the neck. But that's not the case when you go too far forward or too far down, because when you go down too far, you actually close down the vertebra in back. So bending a little bit is okay, bending a lot is not. So you don't need to really start pushing up with the head. What you need is to just lightly lift the head off the neck, just enough to get those signals having the habit of raising the upper vertebra and keeping them open. That's all you need. And if you get it right, one of the things that you get is a very, very light, mild feeling through the back of the neck that feels like something is happening to it. It could even feel like a flow of air almost through there when you get the correct alignment. So if you're going to bend your head slightly forward, you want to get that same feeling that we're talking about in extending the head up. And that's a good thing in general. because in a lot of places in the world, there is a lot of hypermental activity. And hypermental activity tends to shut this down. And among all the people who work with their minds, all sorts of high-tech everything, it doesn't matter what it is, there's a tendency to get more headaches than average. They just need to keep the area open so that it has a light feeling, and that's enough. And if you get that light feeling in the crown of your head, and it feels as though it's right through to your peridium and down to your feet, that means that the energy is probably actually circulating in your body. So let's do a little exercise with this. So if you'll stand up again just for a short time. And just basically standing, not with the feet separated as we do for cloud hands. And I want you to very gently rub your fingers all around your face. And then over your eyeballs, and feel very clearly how gently you want to press on your eyeballs, because that's the pressure that you want to have to lift your head. Any more strength than that, and you're going to really overdo it. So using that light pressure, reach up and just stroke very gently up the back of the neck, just up over the edge of the occiput. Just do that a few times and feel that sense of the head lifting. This is something that actually works much better to have somebody else do it to you, but obviously we can't do that at the moment. So you need to do this for yourself. But that,
David, what is an occiput?
oh, the base of the skull.
Oh, okay.
So you may remember often in very beginning Taiji classes, I'll talk about having the sense of the head being pulled up by a golden cord from the heavens. That was one of the beginning ways the Chinese described this too. So there is a sense of the head lifting off the spine. So again, being aware of the position of the head now. Again, stand for a minute. And breathe and be aware of your alignments. Be aware of the energy moving through your body, particularly downward as you stand. And see if finding the position of your head doesn't help release that energy flowing downward. And then maintaining that position of the head, step out and go into the shifting for cloud hands again. But really trying to maintain the awareness of the position of your head and neck. And make sure that you're not letting it drop to either side or back. And recognizing that it's all right if it does drop very slightly forward. And really wanting to keep that space in the neck open. Because we want the energy to flow from the crown of the head down through the perineum to the feet and back up. Okay, so relax. You feel you have some sense of how you'd like your head to be?
Yeah.
No.
No? Yeah.
I don't feel like I have a good sense of a connection between my head and perineum or what I'm looking for. You know, other things like lifting the head, and there's a sense of something going on the back of the neck. I'm like, yes, absolutely, it's right there.
Good.
You know,
okay.
And then but like, oh, when you get that connection, you'll know. And I'm like, I don't know. I must not be doing it, or.
Well, you know that you've released the neck.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning of sinking the chi in your body, which we'll be coming to not today, but shortly. Working on that more. The only way the energy is going to connect from the crown of your head to your perineum is it has to sink down the body. And you have to open up the body and allow it to do that. So we're back to allow again.
I guess like I have a sense of sinking to like my dantian, and then like down the outside of my legs, kind of following I guess kind of like a dragon and tiger path. I'm thinking of that more.
The macrocosmic circuit, yes.
Yeah. But
okay.
yeah, between dantian and perineum and crown of the head, I'm like, those are three separate things.
So the connection to the perineum is actually more easily reached by going down the spine to the perineum rather than down to the dantian.
Okay.
you can still do it eventually without any difficulty, sinking to the dantian and then the perineum. Because actually, if you think about movement 2 in Dragon and Tiger, since you raised that, when that energy comes up, you're bringing up the inside of the leg to the perineum, and then up through the dantian to the level of the heart. So, so you've already in that particular practice played with that connection.
Right. But I guess I just need to go the other way.
Yeah, well, absolutely. So it is more difficult to sink the chi than it is to raise it, because the chi naturally has a tendency to rise. It's always moving in both directions, but we feel it first in its rising most easily. But because we need to be able, and this we'll get into much more when we get to actually sinking the chi as a practice, but sinking the chi is how we cleanse the chi of the body, the energy of the body. Any stagnant chi that the body can't use is released downward, can be released downward, just as other things that we want to get out of the body are released. Tears, feces, urine, sweat, all of it goes down. So we need to also be able to get the chi to go down as well. But it usually is a little more difficult at first, because we need to really concentrate our intent on being able to sink the chi. It naturally rises. So just kind of another stage of the practice of this. We will be working on that.
Okay. Yeah.
But good point. Any other issues or questions at the moment?
I noticed that there was a heaviness that went down.
Good.
I'm guessing that's what's happening.
Yes. Absolutely. It can have that sense. Okay. So.
Question, but I forgot it. So.
I beg your pardon?
I had a question, but I forgot it. So let's go on.
Oh, sorry. So the way that we're working on Enrtgy Gates is the way it's classically done in Tai Chi. But you have other martial arts like Xingyi and Bagua that are more yang. But this is a very yin way of doing this Qigong. It's not a way of doing it because it's a soft way of doing this, because almost anybody can maintain something that's relatively soft and easy. Even in China, they say everybody can do Tai Chi. The blind, those that are crippled, the aged, the not too bright, anybody can do it. So it has this thing that's that has the sense of fitting everybody, because it's gentle and it's relatively soft. But then you have Xingyi and Bagua, which only a small percentage of people do, because it's extremely yang. Anybody can walk up and down, but not everyone can do triathlons. And not a lot of people who try and do triathlons end up actually, after a few years of trying to do it, as perhaps being crippled or limited in major ways. So just as a point of that the kind of practice we're working on is a yin one and not a yang one. And I don't know whether you will be able to see this really clearly, but hopefully you can. Looking at two relatively similar postures in Tai Chi and Xing Yi. So as we go into ward off left in Tai Chi, it's a very soft, even though we are expressing energy outward. In Xing Yi, when we go into a similar position, it is a very yang position, and the body is much harder and focused on the yang energy rather than the yin. So when we're standing and trying to keep your head straight, don't tense up. Don't be a Frankenstein monster. We want to do this from the yin way. So the reason I'm saying this is that extremely yang forms of practice only fit maybe 10 or 20% of people. And if someone is sick and does the super yang methods, especially if they've been damaged in some way, it can interfere with their healing. They'll only, those practices will only heal a person if the reason why they're sick is that their chi is so weak. It's not just about having more, it's about having it be balanced. You have to make a very big distinction about whether just balancing something will relieve physical, mental, emotional issues, excuse me, or pure strengthening will. This issue exists in the martial arts world, and you have it in the Qigong world as well. And you have it in meditation methods, where there are differences that are essentially yin or they are essentially yang in practice. Are they just about really strengthening or are they about balancing? Now, a bad part about strengthening is, what if you make something that is strong too strong? And that actually can be worse than having it be weak. So all I'm trying to explain is you don't need extreme strength. If you allow your body to be very light, all of a sudden, your whole body just opens up. And actually, that's what we were talking about earlier, Andrew. In China, they have both soft Qigong and hard Qigong. One is extremely yang and the other is extremely yin. When people are going for high performance type of activities, hard Qigong is very popular because you can get a fast result in a short time. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people who want to go for the best performance go for the soft arts as well, because soft Qigong will eventually create steel, so you don't need to be standing like a Frankenstein monster. So for your head, softly, feel your head softly lifting up. And if you get that, you're going to feel the inside of your body. The Chinese phrase is a little corny, but you will open up like a flower. But what do you not do is let your head, is let your head bend to the sides or back too far. Now we're going to sync our chi a little bit more. What you're learning is actually not Qigong, it's Neigong. So Qigong is only a name that came about in the past 100 years. Neigong is talking about the internal energy and the development of the internal energy. So I think actually I'm going to stop there today, and we will continue next week. Not next week, 2 weeks. And so last minute thoughts or questions about this practice? Okay, well, thank you very much. Sorry for the delay, but was beyond my control.
Thank you, David.
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Take care, everybody, for 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Bye, Susan and Andrew.
Bye.
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 So I should get back to the family. So we'll have to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying on the phone. Yeah.
I thought that might be what you were saying.
Yeah.
Well, if you have another time during the week or next week, you want to.
If I'll try to talk to Kaya. She's been sick this week. She's feeling a little better today.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's just a cold. Well, just a cold, but it's not anything, scary.
Good.
So yeah, we'll see. If something comes up, I will let you know for sure.
Okay.
I can't commit to anything. It's been a lot.
Hang in there, Andrew. I know it's been a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, so I don't want to. What I don't want to do is be like, oh yeah, this day, and then have to cancel on you, and then try to move it, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let me know if some time shows up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or we'll talk later in the week.
Okay.
I don't have Dragon and Tiger anymore. We've finished that.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Pretty much. So the other Saturdays I could, take a little time to look at the form with you.
Okay. Yeah. That would probably be the most likely thing to happen.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do that.
Yeah.
Just for next Saturday. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk.
Okay.
Give our best to the rest of the family.
Sure. Yeah.
And you hang in there.
I will. Yeah. I'm in the process of moving towards a more managerial role in the one company.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's just a lot more meetings.
Yeah.
So a lot more talking, which isn't my favorite thing in the world.
No, but it's part of it.
Right. But, all right.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
Yep, you too.
Bye.